30 years ago, China was in a state of complete economic disarray. Today, China is the world's second largest economy. How did that change happen? In 1976, after 27 years of Chairman Mao Zedong's authoritarian rule, the great helmsman is dead at 82 years of age due to atrophy of the brain. During Mao's rule, the battered people and economy of China was forced, at Mao's orders, to stumble from one convulsive change to another, pushing China backwards economically. Mao's first major scheme of economic expansion was the Great Leap Forward, driven by poorly conceived initiatives by the government in Beijing, including unreasonably idealistic steelworking and farming policies. His plan, termed a drive to surpass Britain and catch up to America, meant that average Chinese recycled anything they owned made of iron or steel and processed them in backyard furnaces, in the end making nothing more than useless, low-grade pig iron, which did little to improve China's industrialization.
He always thought fighting the Revolutionary War was very difficult.
In 1958, Mao launched his most ambitious campaign to date, the Great Leap Forward.
The plan also led to a lag in the overall grain production of China, failing to keep pace with a rising population. The plan soon collapsed, resulting in one of the largest famines in the history of the world. In 1953, China had a population of about 500 million. The Great Leap Forward ultimately then killed in excess of 45 million people. Mao soon aborted the plan and formulated yet another to consolidate his power in Beijing by the mid-1960s. The Cultural Revolution was born, and Mao experienced a surge in his personal celebrity. The Chinese youth was inspired to struggle against traditionalist values in defense of the chairman, meaning brutal purges of many in civil society and the government.
All ideas contrary to Mao's thinking and the objects that represented them had to be destroyed. Throughout the country, churches were closed, clergy unfrocked, religious symbols smashed.
More recently, there have been accounts of cannibalism in this time, allegedly organized by local communist parties to demonstrate revolutionary zeal. Chinese society, which had long revolved around the idea of hierarchy, had been turned on its head, with a student class dominating the social and political climate.
Mao had decided to mobilize the young people as the driving force of this campaign.
By the mid-1970s, it was evident to his inner circle that Mao would soon die. As a result of this fact, the party now fractionalized into different cliques. The Gang of Four was made up of Mao's wife, Jiang Qing, Wang Hongwen, Zhang Chunqiao, and Yao Wenyuan. Deng Xiaoping led the conservative clique, which sought economic reform. Mao's passing created a power vacuum, in which the Gang of Four ended up in prison for life. Deng used his political clout to persuade his adversaries to step aside and allow him to take leadership of the country. Following the series of crippling failures in all sectors of the economy and the collapse of Chinese society, the Communist Party could react or remain on the course of economic devastation. The successful economic reforms implemented under Deng Xiaoping reversed the crippling circumstances of a broken Chinese economy misdirected under Mao Zedong. Deng's brainchild not only transformed China into the world's fastest growing economy within 20 years, but also radically altered the values of Chinese society, introducing popular political participation and the income gap. The revisions undertaken formed a reaction to Mao's rule, a social revolution, and an economic reform. In 1980, China created 4 special economic zones in Zhuhai, Xiamen, Shenzhen, and Shantou respectively in order to increase foreign direct investment. Not only did it successfully achieve its goal, but it also increased the common Chinese exposure to foreign forms of business and social interaction. The Chinese government underwent a change in ideology during the economic reform, as they stated during the 14th Congress of the Chinese Communist Party. The overall goal of the reform was to achieve a socialist market economy. This change in ideology not only occurred in the government, but also within the common people, but not without a price. During the economic reform, the Chinese government permitted the creation of private businesses, however large or small. These businesses allowed many families to lift themselves out of extreme poverty. As Deng Xiaoping, the Communist Party chairman and architect of the reform, quipped, "It doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice." Many of the businesses remained small and continued only to serve people in the immediate vicinity, whereas others exploded into multi-million-dollar conglomerates. In June 1989, many college students gathered in Tiananmen Square to demonstrate in favor of multi-party democracy to be their new form of government. As the crowd slowly grew out of hand, Deng Xiaoping made a decision that would be wiped from Chinese history books. He sent the army in to control the impending riot and force the college students to go home. What he did not expect was violent resistance, which resulted in the death of many students and lost China valuable credibility on the world stage. For the last 20 years, China has been the world's fastest growing economy. It has been a leading contributor and a valuable marketplace for international trade ever since the economic reform. In an effort to make China more economically efficient, Deng Xiaoping encouraged the formation of rural enterprises and changed the markets from closed to international. After the 20 years since the reform, China is now the world's second largest economy, surpassing Japan in 2011. The economic liberalization espoused by Deng led to an improvement of the Chinese people's quality of life, resulting in a ranking of 89th by Human Development Index. Inevitably, as average prosperity increases, there's an emerging diamond collar class in China, where greater and greater wealth is concentrated. China's per capita income has nearly quadrupled in the last 15 years, and several analysts are predicting that the Chinese economy will be larger than that of the United States in another 20 years.
Now, a bombshell out of the International Monetary Fund today, spelling the end or the potential end of the age of American economic dominance. Now, according to the latest forecasts from the IMF, China is poised to overtake the U.S. economy in 2016, just 5 years from now, and much sooner than previously expected.
By opening the Chinese markets, China came to exploit its full potential of market power. The economic reforms raised economic efficiency by introducing profit incentives to rural collective enterprise. This helped many farmers and villagers weave their way out of poverty and start their own business.
Before the reform, money making was illegal. When we were caught, we'd have to give in our money. Deng's economic reform allowed us to keep the money that we were making. Without the reforms, all our businesses nowadays would have been illegal and confiscated by the governmental party. Since I was only a villager at that time, it helped us a lot and we finally started to make some money.
Before the economic reform, China was very strictly communist. Communism never prioritized trading between international countries. The encouragement of foreign investment was the second step in the open door policy after the industrial sector was properly set. This was very significant for the economical wealth of China. When enterprises are owned and controlled by the state, economic decisions necessarily become political decisions, and impersonal price competition is supplanted by forms of personal competition driven by the quest for personal power and privilege. The effect of one ideal, the ideal of economic freedom in China, has had an immense effect on how the world's economy operates. China's economy has expanded so rapidly that the prospect of surpassing that of the United States has become a near reality. Deng's reform opened the local Chinese market for small business owners and re-allowed the owning of private business and the formation of rural enterprises. There wouldn't be a solid labor force behind the driving power in the economy. It was a long and demanding process. However, now look at China, look at what China is producing, and you would understand how extensive a reform and revolution took place. Much of the world's manufactured goods now come from China, a direct result of the market liberalization that Deng's administration spearheaded. In all manufacturing sectors, China is making its presence known. China now has a mutualistic relationship with the world at large and has contributed to lifting the world's most populous countries out of poverty. Looking to the future, China has faced many different challenges, from a deteriorating environment to a shrinking pool of raw materials. Challenges, however, are small in relation to the benefits that the reforms have harvested. China has made an indelible mark on the world economy and world history through an economic revolution, a social reform, and a reaction to necessity.